Hello, welcome to Todd Miller TV. I'm here with Oana. We just shot a video earlier talking about price and how to price your home. So, because Oana is now a new member of the MLS committee, I want to chat with her about a subject which she has no idea what I'm talking about because I'm hijacking her with this as usual. Some MLSs, like you probably have seen when you go in the MLS and you see a price. It says this house is available for $200,000, right? That's the list price. Some MLSs, for example, San Diego, the Bay Area, they have their MLS allows something called value range pricing. For example, let's say you've got a house that's worth like $1 million, roughly. Well, what they'll do is you can put a lower and a higher price point on it. So you could say it's worth between $975,000 and $1,025,000. You can put a value range on it. So first of all, from a practical standpoint, if I'm searching, in the way the idea here is that it comes up if you put something just over $1 million, something under $1 million. If you put more prices, the house shows up in a broader range of searches, which is the concept. What do you think about that for practically, like if we adopted that at the MLS, where we, instead of just put a price, we could put a range in?
You know, I think to some extent, I think that's confusing for consumers.
Okay.
Okay? Because then the consumer is looking at it going, well, is it $975,000? Is it is it $1,025,000? What is it? And what's going to be acceptable to that seller? I don't really understand. And that seller may say, well, I won't take anything under $1 million. So then why are you putting it at $975,000?
Okay.
So I think that makes it confusing for consumers because what a consumer is going to look at is going to say, oh, well, if the value range is $975,000 to some other higher number, well, then really it's $975,000.
Right.
And I'm going to offer less than that. So I think that adds confusion to the market. I think it adds frustration for both buyers and sellers. And as a culture, we are not accustomed to seeing value ranges. We're accustomed when we go to the store for something to be X, not, well, it's between this and this. I know that when I go to the store, a gallon of milk is $2.50. Okay, I don't get a choice of is it $2.25 or $2.75, depends on if it's an even day, odd year, full moon. So it's the way we are culturally set up. I think if we were dealing maybe with a different culture, that might be different. But in our culture, we're very accustomed to set prices.
Okay, so how do you think that works then with when you walk into the store? I mean, if the loaf of bread is $1.79, you just go to the register and pay it and walk out the door.
Right.
But that doesn't happen with real estate. People want to get less than whatever the list price is. They feel good if they get less than the list price when they buy a house.
Right.
But they don't feel good if the bread is $1.79, they pay the $1.79 and it's a commodity.
It is.
So how do you think it changes all of a sudden with why culturally? Because in some cultures, you'll negotiate everything.
Right.
I mean, if the sticker price is X, you have to get it for less. So in other cultures, they intentionally overprice everything so that people can save face and get stuff for less and feel good about their purchase.
Right.
They negotiate their price.
Right. And even in our culture, there are instances when you can negotiate your price. I mean, we're all accustomed to negotiating our price when we go buy a car, right?
Yeah, it's negotiable.
I went to Sports Chalet, and I went to the register to pay for something, and they told me how much it was, and I said, well, that's ridiculous. I want a discount, and I got a 15% discount. It was great, and I was rather proud of myself.
No.
But, so it depends on what the instance is.
Okay.
However, when I went to Sports Chalet, they didn't have a price range up there. They had the price.
Okay.
And it was up to me when I went to the register to say, hey, I think this is unreasonable. It's an off-season item. I want a discount. So
we go back to value range pricing, you think that even though it's done in some markets, like if you go in San Diego and look through like Realtor.com, you'll see some listings where it shows a range of values.
Right.
You think it's confusing for the consumer, like what does that mean? And then culturally we don't get it. It's like, well, if I'm going to make an offer, I'm just going to offer the lowest price.
Right. Well, and not only that, but we're not just going to offer the lowest price. We're going to offer a discounted price off the lowest price.
Right, because we believe that that's the price, but then they just added a bunch to it to make that the value range. The list price that they would have picked, plus they picked a higher number, and so that's the value range.
Well, and I think consumers don't understand why would I... If you're telling me that the value is $975,000 to $1,025,000, why would I ever pay $1,025,000 when you're willing to sell it for $975,000? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I think the reason they did that was because we do, like on the previous video, and if you didn't watch it, go back and watch the other video. If in a market like San Diego, if somebody says, I want to find something between 6 and 800,000, but you're willing, but your house is kind of in that range, but you would really want to list it for like 585. So you would say it's 585 to 615, so that the people searching 6 to 8 would see it and go, well, this is a house worth between 6 and 8, even though it's not. It's probably worth just under 6, but they want you to consider it. I think that's the idea, is what they're trying to do. And the way I think it should work is the agent should do that. The agent should say, look, you said 6 to 8. Here's this house. It is 585. It's not in your range, but it's just as nice as the other houses. And it's got this and this and this. It's got all the things you want. So even though it's not, it's below your lower range. And I think they should do it on the high range too. They should say, look, you said 6 to 8. This one house is listed for 815, but you know what? It's probably only worth 775. They've overpriced it, listed. They've never got offers. It's been in the market. I think if we offered them less, they would take it. Let's look at it. Right. And I think that the agent can be the person, because sometimes the consumer won't do that. They won't say, hey, this is overpriced, but let's look at it anyway. I think the agent needs to get that information and do that.
I mean, look, when I'm looking for a house for myself or for a client, depending on the price range, even though the client is telling me, hey, I want to be between 500,000 and 600,000, I will look at that point. I will look 50,000 outside of that, because for whatever reason, properties may be overpriced or underpriced.
Okay, you're right.
And so I want to include all that, and then it's my job to sit down with my client and go, okay, I know you want to look between 5 and 6. Let's look at these outliers out here and say, do any of these make sense?
Right.
A lot of times we don't want to go down all the way down to 50,000 less, because those properties don't have the amenities we're looking for, or the lot, or whatever. But it doesn't take that long to take a look at them to see if there is a gem there that maybe is underpriced for some reason. Maybe they're trying to sell it quickly, which is wonderful. Now I'm getting a great deal for my buyer. It's perfect. And the flip side is, maybe somebody is overpriced because they need the property to be on the market longer.
Right.
Maybe that there's something personal going on and they need the property on the market longer. They're going to lower the price when they're ready. So that's a house for us to look at. If for no other reason, it's a house for us to look at and then track as they're lowering the price. Then we can come in and make an offer, because now they're within the realm of reality.
Okay.
So now we get to see that house, and we get to be the first to put in the offer when everybody else has discounted that house because it's overpriced.
So it's safe to say that with you on the MLS, we will probably not see value range pricing show up in our MLS.
If I get a vote in that, then the answer is going to be no. I think that serves the consumer very poorly.
Okay, good. I like that. All right, so that's the update for today. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in another video.